Merry Christmas Eve 3. What is this? Like tomorrow would be the penultimate Christmas Eve, right? Wow, there's nobody here today. Well, not nobody. There's Frank, there's Donna, there's Webb, and there's Bill. And a fifth person just showed up. There's John. Oh, Hank's here somewhere. Okay, I'm just missing people then. How you guys doing? Yeah, I'm about a minute or two late. You know, these things happen. It's the holiday season. Yes, I nearly started singing. I know what we're talking about today. I don't know exactly what I'm going to say about it. I'm curious what your thoughts are. So, leave messages up there in the hold on. What's going on? Okay. Leave messages up there in the thing and hopefully it'll be great and I'll be able to read them later. And who knows, maybe they will even become parts of future shows. It's tough to say. Hang on, I'm going to close a couple of other things before we get started. Because I'm worried that there's a little bit of lag. Oh, well, I guess I could probably get rid of that. That'll do it. That should do it anyway. All right, we'll find out. Hopefully this is going okay for everybody. Happy pre-holiday. Stand by. Okay, but why would they? It's Tuesday, the 22nd of December, 2020, and this is macOS Ken Live. That's one of those questions you have to ask, isn't it? When you hear Apple's going to jump the Grand Canyon, but why? What problem does that solve? Hi, I'm Ken Ray, welcoming you into another edition of macOS Ken Live, a show born of the Daily News show that I do called macOS Ken. Usually daily. I need to quit saying that anything is daily this week because, of course, we have the holidays this week. This is the next to the last live show of this week. Then there'll be 2 or 3 next week. Tomorrow's will be the last macOS Ken for the week, but we can talk about all that in a bit. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about before we talk about that. Second half of the show, we're going to chase the car story. There have been a couple of things. One interesting analyst note, and then Elon Musk being Elon Musk. So we'll talk about that. And if you don't know what car story I'm talking about, you should go back and watch yesterday's macOS Ken Live or listen to today's macOS Ken because it was all Apple car talk all the time. Click and clack not included. First half of the show, though. This is one of those things that gets people really excited. And again, I don't understand exactly why. I mean, I can see benefits, but I also don't get why Apple would do it. There is talk out there that MGM, the studio that owns James Bond, and a bunch of other stuff too, but James Bond is probably their moneymaker at this point. The studio that owns James Bond is said to be up for sale. There has been talk in the past, and I'm drawing some from a Cult of Mac piece, although the Cult of Mac piece is actually drawing from the Wall Street Journal. There's been talk in the past that Apple was actually looking to, they were looking to buy just the James Bond movies. Hang on, let me back up a tiny bit. They wanted the next James Bond movie, No Time to Die, which was already supposed to be in theaters. But, theaters are kind of a lost cause for now. Tenet made, I want to say like $50 million in US box office. And I'm not making that number up, but I'm drawing it from my memory. So if I got that wrong, I apologize. Theaters are no places for movies to be right now. The problem is movies cost so much that you kind of want them in theaters because that's where the real money is, or at least where it has been to this point. Rumor had it earlier this year that Apple is willing to pay as much as $400 million for the James Bond movie. $400 million. I haven't seen a James Bond movie in the theater since movies were like $4. I was a kid. Not even sure I saw one in the theater when I was a kid, to be honest. It's just never been my thing. I don't mean to sound dismissive. I know there are lots of people that absolutely love them. I had friends who thought the coolest part of the high-speed event was the one where they showed off the iPhone mini. And they did the James Bond thing. Oh, which is kind of an interesting point. They did the James Bond thing where they had the theme and it, was in a case and another case and another case. And then finally they got to the iPhone mini, iPhone 12 mini, excuse me. I know there are people who are very excited. Apple obviously was very excited as well because they showed up with $400 million saying we just want the streaming rights to No Time to Die. And MGM said, we want more, which is why everybody is watching No Time to Die on which streaming service? Oh, sorry, the answer is none. It's not out. They want more than $400 million for the streaming rights to that movie. I'm not saying it's not worth it. I don't know. Maybe it is, but they could have taken the $400 million and said, now they're up for sale. Asking price supposedly is $5.5 billion. This piece from Cult of Mac and or the Wall Street Journal points out that that is more than Apple has ever spent on anything. They spent $3 billion on Beats. They spent $3 billion on Beats, so this would be more. And you can kind of see how it might work because they wouldn't just be buying a back catalog, although they would be getting a back catalog. They would also be buying intellectual property with which they can play going forward. Excuse me. No Time to Die, while it may be Daniel Craig's last James Bond movie, is not likely to be the last James Bond movie. They've been making them for over 50 years, right? Based on novels that I don't know if they're still writing James Bond novels or not. I know Ian Fleming went on to his great reward some time ago. There was a guy named John Gardner, not the guy who wrote Grendel, but there was a guy named John Gardner who was writing a bunch of James Bond novels for a while. I assume they're still out there. Even if they're not, that is intellectual property that's ready to be, sort of rebooted. Rocky. Rocky and Creed are actually part of the MGM lineup. Tomb Raider. This one I actually found interesting. Legally Blonde, which of course starred Reese Witherspoon. Improbable though it seems, although it's not, I guess it's not really that improbable. I was going to say improbable as it seems. There is a third Legally Blonde that is set to come out in 2021. That is being produced by Hello Sunshine, which is, of course, Reese Witherspoon's production company. I say a third continuation or a second continuation. A third installment seems improbable, but first of all, it's about politics. Second, it's Reese Witherspoon. And third, if Hollywood knows the name of something, they'll go ahead and make it again. It's fine. If they can use the same name again. I believe there was a cartoon once called James Bond Jr. There's no shortage of things that Apple could do with the IP. The thing is, Apple has been making stuff, with its own IP or making deals with other people without having spent $5.5 billion. I don't know what they would physically get from that. I don't know if MGM comes with a lot at this point or a back lot, or if they produce everything at other people's studios. I don't know if it's just buying the IP. I don't know what that's getting them if they do it. Unless it's, the cachet of being, the home of James Bond or the home of Creed and Creed 2 and Creed 3. You could reboot the Rocky movies if you ever get Stallone to stop showing up for them. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. This thing also lists some other stuff that they have. They have the Silence of the Lambs IP, which I guess would give them Hannibal. If you want to keep making those movies, they own Dances with Wolves. They own Rain Man. They own the Terminator. Holy cow. You want to talk about some messed up IP? That is, the cool thing about the Terminator is you can make whatever movie you want from the Terminator because they've screwed up the timeline in that so many times. And it's yeah, just go ahead. He probably came to a time thing. It'll be fine. What I found myself wondering is so let's say they get this back catalog. Then I know I said asking price is supposed to be $5.5 billion. They paid $3 billion for Beats. They didn't know that Beats music was going to be anything, but Beats, the headphones that they also bought, were already making over $1 billion a year. All they had to do was not mess that up. All they had to do was let that keep doing what it was doing, and they would make their $3 billion back in 3 years, 3.5 years, maybe say 5 if you want to take in other costs and things like that. They would make that money back. You don't necessarily make back $5.5 billion from buying a movie studio. You then have to start banking on everything that you've got going next, unless you want to, talk about licensing the IP or something. I do also wonder, like, one of the things about Netflix, right, is something's always coming, something's always going. One of the things about HBO is something's always coming, something's always going. And they're all already producing their own content. Same with Showtime. They're all producing their own content. So that is like one big draw now. It used to be sort of novel that HBO was making its own shows. Now it's a huge deal that each one makes their own shows and the quality of those shows. And so Apple is already playing on that part. If they, put up all the James Bond movies and they put up all the, Rocky movies and they put up all the Tomb Raider movies, they put up all the everything they have, even all the classic movies. It could be a giant catalog, but it's going to be a static catalog. $5 a month for a bunch of classic movies and for all the new stuff that's coming out is not bad. Does it look tepid? I don't know. Here's the thing, and this is a ridiculous phrase that I'm about to say. It's only $5.5 billion, which is an obscene thing to say. But when you talk about the amount of money that Apple has, $5.5 billion is not a bad investment or wouldn't necessarily be a bad investment. They do inherit a lot of film history and television history and active intellectual property at the same time. And, we get all the James Bond movies, except I think they're on YouTube right now, actually. Okay, so we get all the Tomb Raider movies we can stand. Plus, if you act now, we'll throw in Legally Blonde 3. I find the idea interesting. It's weird because when I heard that Apple was thinking about doing its own video streaming something or other, I was actually excited about that because that was a new idea. When you tell me, and they're going to buy a bunch of old stuff, I get a little bit less excited. Who knows though? Could be fun. They may have a lot in mind for it. Or Netflix could swoop in with $6 billion and call it good. I should have said actually, there was talk that the former head of MGM, or one of the former heads of MGM, was actually in secret talks to sell to Apple back in 2018. I think at that point they were looking to sell for something like 3 billion, 4 billion, something like that. And that guy got fired because somebody else said, "No, give me a few years. I can sell it for more than that." Yeah, we'll see. Coming up in just a moment, we'll chase the car story. Just a couple of things that happened over the past day or so. First of all, I want to let you know though about this week's in a few minutes. Started late this week, going to end early this week as well, but we're bringing back the album side. Tom Merritt was cool enough back in October actually to record an album side of holiday music. He didn't record an album side, but we talked about what he thought would be the album side you should check out, or the holiday songs you should check out. Tomorrow, Shelley Brisbane is going to be on talking about her album side, and then we'll wrap up Thursday with my holiday tracks. So we end up with an album side that's 15 songs long. You can hear the first 5 that Tom did already. The second 5 will be up tomorrow, and then my 5 will round it off on Thursday. 5 or 6. I'm having trouble choosing, and it's my album, so I might choose one more. The way to find the album side, if you're an Apple Music subscriber, go to Apple Music and search for Ken Ray or macOS Ken, all one word. Either way, that should eventually take you to my profile. If you do Ken Ray, you just have to scroll down until you see my picture and macOS Ken next to it. And then click on that, and it's the holiday album side 2020. And it's right there for you and yours to enjoy in this theoretically festive season. Yeah, let's do the car talk. If you missed the car talk yesterday, I don't know how you could have. Reuters ran a piece that said Apple is looking to roll out a car by 2024. That could get pushed back to 2025 because of COVID-19. It also may never happen because Apple may change its mind. The thing that piece really focused on was the battery. They kept focusing on the battery and how different the battery is going to be and how amazing the battery is going to be, and the range you'll be able to achieve with this battery. As of yesterday, there was only one analyst who had said anything about it. There was the person who covers space and automotive, I think, for Morgan Stanley. So it wasn't even Katie Huberty. It was somebody else who just talks about space and cars or cars in space. Man, he must have been excited when Elon Musk shot that Tesla straight out into space. He's like, this is everything. This is every story I've ever Evercore analyst Amit Daryanani reacted to his thoughts on the car, and he basically reacted. He was asking the same question that I was asking here yesterday, kind of. The question I was asking yesterday was, what problem does it solve? The question he's asking is why, which is not exactly the same question, but they're similar. Quoting a note that I found at Philip Elmer-DeWitt's Apple 3.0, barring some breakthrough in battery or autonomous driving tech, we see little reason for Apple to enter the low-margin, capital-intensive business of building automobiles. That said, vehicles are rapidly becoming computers on wheels, so Apple's background in software, silicon, electronics could be useful if it partners with a company like Magna. Magna is basically like an OEM for cars, it looked like. I went to their site, and it looks like, rather than there being a Ford plant, Fisker, I know, actually partnered with Magna at one point. Whether that'll actually happen, I don't know. But instead of you building your own plant, you have an idea for a car, you have a design, you have all the, you've done all the work, except for the work of actually making it, and Magna can do that. Daryanani says, it's previously reported that Apple was working with Magna before the relationship dissolved. While the story indicates Apple will likely produce a car in 2024, we think it is a higher probability outcome that Apple continues to develop an autonomous driving system that it would sell to traditional automakers. Okay. Which one of those actually seems more likely? I honestly don't know. What does Apple make that it then turns around and sells to someone else to use? I guess it's possible that that is the way that Apple is going to go in healthcare, that they're going to come up with a whole bunch of systems and ideas that are going to work well with other stuff. You could sort of argue that home does that, but not really. The Internet of Things that I buy should be able to plug into home. It's not like they built home for other devices, although you could argue that that river actually runs both ways in that case. Maybe stuff is built for Apple's home app. Maybe home is actually built for other people's stuff. It's tough to say. I understand why he thinks that Apple would be better served giving whatever they find to other automakers or licensing whatever they find to other automakers. And if anybody remembers something else that I'm missing, let me know what that is. They're certainly getting more friendly with other hardware. You look at what's happening with Apple TV, with the Apple TV app, and then with Apple TV Plus. That's available on almost any smart TV at this point, most other streaming devices at this point, Roku, Amazon Fire, TV, just about any TV manufacturer you can name. Apple Music doesn't just play on Apple Gear, it also plays on Android. It's definitely more aware that there are other fields in which to play. That's different than, you're talking practically about licensing the operating system to other manufacturers at that point, which Apple did a very long time ago and stopped doing a very long time ago. At the same time, starting up a whole new car factory company, because it wouldn't be one factory, starting up a whole new, car manufacturing process would be difficult. The Magna thing is kind of interesting. I don't know. The whole thing is still really gray. I find the story interesting. And hey, you know who else finds the story interesting? Elon Musk. Now, it's possible he finds it interesting because he heard his name. During the darkest days of the Model 3 program, this is something that Elon Musk tweeted earlier today. During the darkest days of the Model 3 program, I reached out to Tim Cook to discuss the possibility of Apple acquiring Tesla for 1/10 of our current value. He refused to take the meeting. In the talk that we were doing after macOS Can Live yesterday, somebody said something about, Apple should have bought Tesla a long time ago. And I argued in that after the episode talk, only if they can get rid of Elon Musk. Now, I don't even want to say I like Elon Musk. The kinds of things that Elon Musk starts, the kinds of conversations and the kinds of technologies that he pushes forward, I think are incredible. I also think he's Tony Stark without being Iron Man. There's a lot of personality there. There's a lot of rock star there. And while I think that can be great, I think John Ledger was a fantastic CEO of T-Mobile, if for no other reason because he just like lit up the room. Same thing with Musk in a lot of ways. I don't see that playing well with Tim Cook. I don't see that playing well with Tim Cook's Apple. The technology might be great. The sex appeal might be great. The ego on Musk, it's hard to see that happening. It's hard to see that playing well with Apple. I could be wrong about that. Also, he's calling shenanigans on the Reuters story. He's not calling shenanigans on Apple's technology because we haven't heard what Apple's technology actually is. Some secret someone, some secret somewhere said something to Reuters that got this article written that got Apple's shares up a buck and change on a day that Apple was in the red when the day started. And I want to say that the NASDAQ actually went down. I mean, we haven't heard from Apple anything about this, though. So basically, he said one of the breakthroughs supposedly from the Reuters story was that Apple would be using iron phosphate for medium range cars and or for batteries, excuse me. And Musk is like, we're already doing that. And then the other thing, the monocell that was talked about in the Reuters piece, Musk is saying it's impossible. And I'm not saying who's right. I'm not saying who's wrong. We don't even know what comes from Apple. I'm saying this is the reason I don't see Elon Musk playing nice with Apple. I mean, I think if they were competitors, it would be fine. It wouldn't be nearly as acrimonious as, say, what's going on between Epic and Apple or anything like that. It's just hard to see. It's just hard for me to see. So there, we have now chased the car story. I don't know that we've caught it, which is good because I don't know what we would do with it if we did. But we've chased the car story and we've talked over the MGM thing. Hey, right. I think that's going to do it for today. I mentioned that we have macOS Ken coming up tomorrow. I mentioned that we have In a Few Minutes coming up tomorrow. We're doing this live one more time. Wednesday, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern. One more time this week. I'm basically just taking off Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. We'll be back for at least a couple of shows next week. Not sure if they'll start Monday or Tuesday. But yeah. I'm not completely holiday checked out, but I'm getting there. So yeah, I feel like this part should be a bit more together, and it's not. If you're in the chat room right now, please stay in the chat room. I will be by there momentarily. If you're not in the chat room, we'd love it if you were, but I've told you when the live show is, and that's when the chat room opens too. So come by, make friends. Talk to you soon. Hi, everybody. That's not vodka. Interesting. Sorry, I'm going back up and reading what people said at the top. It is really interesting, Web, that you didn't think they would get into phones. So my very first video I ever did on YouTube, I did a video in 2006, and then I took 14 years off of doing video. Started again this year. It was called "Where Is My iPhone?" It was basically demanding that they go ahead and do it. It's interesting that you did not see that. Didn't see that happening. Or were you fooled by Steve Jobs saying, "What do we know about phones?" Oh, sorry to have missed you, Eric. Hello, Eric. Ronald says Apple should help with the systems of Tesla and not make their own vehicle. Do you think Tesla would be interested in Apple's help? Ronald says that Tim Cook screwed up by not taking the call from Musk. Do we even know the call happened? Look, I know it sounds like I'm talking bad about Elon Musk. I'm not talking bad about Elon Musk, but as much as he is anything, he is a showman, right? Not P.T. Barnum, but as much as he is anything, he's a showman. I'm not saying he's lying about the call. I am saying that's one of those things that you might say, which I guess means I'm saying he could be lying about the call. I don't know. Okay, so going back to the MGM thing, David says that Apple should have bought Disney when that was a thing. Man, they'd be sitting on theme parks and hotels and cruise ships. I don't know. I like the idea as far as the IP, but man, there's a whole bunch of stuff there that Apple doesn't know how to do. And as classy as the Disney parks are, they're still theme parks. Stuff that it's hard to. I love them. Don't get me wrong. It's hard. It's an interesting idea. Every now and then, I wonder about that because that's an interesting idea. Interesting. Bill says Wikipedia says that Turner actually kept the pre-1986 library of MGM films, and they eventually went to Warner, which of course would put them now on HBO Max. So then, what would they be buying? Okay, I figured that was probably the case. Hank says that MGM hasn't had a studio lot for years. So what are you buying then? Relationships and any IP since 1986? Wait, why are people talking about Captain Spaulding and Rufus T. Firefly? Frank. Frank. Now I gotta go watch Marx Brothers movies. Chuck says the battery discussion is interesting. Moving on to the car thing. Battery discussion is interesting. The rest is clickbait at a time when Apple news is slow and the analysts rose to the bait. Well, not many of them. Plus, you have to, don't you? I mean, it's been a story for 6 years, almost 7. You kind of have to respond. John says at this point he is ready for a full self-driving car. I like the idea of taking the wheel away from people like me. Yeah, right? Not away from you, but yeah. Imagine the work you could get done, or the reading you could do, or just looking outside and not even paying attention or thinking about it. They need a jingle, though. Who's going to do the See the World Today in your Chevrolet, or See the USA in your Chevrolet? Excuse me. What rhymes with apple? Hmm. Frank says Musk reminds him of Jobs. Yeah. Well, I think I said again, it was after the show yesterday. The biggest personality at Apple that we know about post Jobs was Scott Forstall, no longer among the people with an Apple badge. Hank says Elon Musk reminds him of Ross Perot as head of EDS and then Perot Systems. Musk at Apple would be like Perot at GM, total disaster. Yeah, John says Musk is in the habit of doing impossible things. Yeah, I, that's the thing. I don't know that I like him, but I really like him at the same time. I don't know. It's the showman side that bothers me for Apple. Not that he wouldn't be able to do amazing stuff, but it would change the company a lot, I think. John, is that true? John says there are rumors of Disney rebooting Firefly. Anara is no longer a companion in the Disney version, probably no Reavers either. Well, just keep making Star Wars then. Sorry. I don't know why they shouldn't actually reboot okay, that's fine. That's great. I love Firefly. That'd be okay. That Disney, there. Disney should do that. No Gone with the Wind, no Wizard of Oz. If yeah, the pre stuff. Sorry. Hmm. Well, that's true. They actually own the property, don't they? Sorry, John. I'm reading what you're saying. They own the property because it was Fox and they bought it. They've already got Star Wars though. The- I would like for I would like for Apple to make a trade for that. I would like for Apple to make a trade for that just because Disney doesn't get to have every cool thing. All right. On all of those happy notes, I actually have a recording coming up in about 25 minutes, so I need to go turn this into an audio show and then go record something else. Thank you guys for being here. We will do this again tomorrow. I may hit the questions that I asked you about last week when I said, when I inevitably fry out during the holiday week, I may turn to some of your questions tomorrow. Unless there's news, in which case we'll talk about that instead. Right. You guys are great. Thank you very much for being here. And hey, let's do it again tomorrow.